A lot more. We're now going to bring in North Carolina Congressman Mark Harris. Good morning to you, sir. Happy to have you on.
Good morning, Alex.
Sir, before we get to the shutdown, I have to start with this news that came out. Your colleague, Congressman Eric Swalwell, he's now ended officially his bid to become California governor. This after those really disturbing allegations of rape and sexual assault surfaced. And right now it's by at least 4 different women. Swalwell has, of course, denied these claims, calling them, quote, politically motivated. However, we saw during the Brett Kavanaugh confirmation hearing, Swalwell was far more inclined to just immediately believe any of the victims. Let's take a quick listen to that.
For Brett Kavanaugh's sake, if he is innocent, I hope tomorrow he opens his statement and says, you know what, bring in all the victims, allow them to be heard, allow them to be questioned. That will clear his name if he's indeed innocent. What are the chances that 3 or 4 women independently who never met each other would have similar experiences with one person? But it's a very hard case to make, the more allegations that come in.
Yeah, I mean, if these allegations are true, those in glass houses, Anna Paulina Luna also, she wants to bring a vote, an expulsion vote. Do you believe that Swalwell should also step down from his seat in Congress immediately?
Well, Alex, thank you so much for having me this morning. Yes, I believe it would be in the best interest of everyone for Eric Swalwell to simply step down and resign. These are serious, serious allegations. I think even hearing over the weekend, as we did from Swalwell's staff that is still with him, saying that the fact that they were still employed with him in the district and in Washington was in no way to be seen as somehow supporting him, but rather they said in their statement that they certainly believed the credibility of these who had come forward. So I think it's a terrible situation. There's a standard that we have that needs to be met. And frankly, I think this is something that's going to require a tremendous investigation, a thorough investigation, and then ultimately that accountability. I think it's important for the American people to see it, and I think it's going to be important for the Ethics Committee to begin to deal with this. And ultimately, as you say, I know I have colleagues that are looking to bring privileged motions this week that may put us in a situation where we would be voting on a censure or even an expulsion. We'll have to wait and see how that plays out. But at the end of the day, there's got to be accountability for this kind of behavior. And of course, now, over the weekend, we learned that the district attorney in Manhattan is looking at this at a full investigation because I've heard the rape allegations being made as well.
Yeah. And again, there's been a lot of Democrats who immediately pulled his endorsement for governor. Again, this was before he dropped out. So if he's not, quote, I guess, good enough to be governor, then he cannot be good enough to be in Congress anymore. But let's now pivot to this. This is something I teased earlier. Congress, of course, returning to session today. And, you've got a wide range of issues that need to be tackled. So as we mentioned, the longest partial shutdown does continue. And Democrats, sir, they just don't look like they're going to budge at all. Now, you are a member of the House Freedom Caucus. Do you believe this proposed, quote, 2-track solution to go ahead and fund DHS through separate reconciliation packages is the right way to go here?
Well, I think at this point, we've reached a place where the Democrats have absolutely refused to fund all of the Department of Homeland Security. And thankfully, the president stepped in and he kind of relieved the pressure valve and enabled us to be able to pay TSA workers and pay all of DHS over this short period of time. But again, that money is going to eventually run out. So we've got to take action. The Democrats want to defund ICE. They want to defund the Border Patrol. And we recognize that's just not going to happen. We cannot allow that to happen. We're not going to have another invasion of our southern border like we saw in the previous administration. And so, yes, we're going to figure out how we're going to accomplish this. And right now, it looks like Republicans are going to have to do it on their own. So if we are going to do it on our own, that means it's going to have to be a reconciliation 2.0. There's a lot of conversation still going on. I know the Senate has already started some work, I'm told, with the Budget Committee and Senator Graham to do just a very simple funding of ICE and funding of Border Patrol. And then that would be mixed with a Senate bill that was sent over that zeroed out Border Patrol and zeroed out ICE to the House. Listen, I don't see any universe where I'm ever going to vote to zero out ICE and zero out Border Patrol. You just can't do it. So I think that we're going to have to see how this is going to work, whether they'll be done simultaneously. But I do think there's some other things that need to be in this reconciliation package. I think we need to be looking at health care. I think we need to be looking at how we're going to fund this conflict, fund our military, and do the things that we need to do. So how clean it is or how simple it is, that remains to be seen. But Republicans are committed to making sure that we fund the Department of Homeland Security, while the Democrats continue to say, we just don't care if they're funded or not. We're going to make sure that doesn't happen.
Yeah, you guys are just trying to keep America safe. That is the bottom line here, sir. Congressman Mark Harris, really enjoyed having you on. Thank you so much for your insight, sir.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure to be with you, Alex.